All right, and welcome back again to the Paisan Sports Podcast. Dante DePlazido, joined as always by Zach Deal presented by Recliner Media. Joined as always by Zach Deal of What's the Deal Sports. So I've got to ask, what's the deal with the Sixers? They went up against the Nuggets, whose entire team was missing, including their backup center. They take the game into overtime against this team of G Leaguers, and they lose in overtime to a nobody team. What's going on?
Do you think it has something to do with like the non-clarity on roles? How it kind of seems like they're interchanging, like who is the main lead? I mean, Tyrese Maxey holds it down, obviously being a top five scorer in the league, but I feel like they still kind of have a little bit of identity issues in that department of like who the true number one guy is. And I feel like
I
at the
think
end of games, that kind of like shows. I mean, I like how VJ Edgecombe is aggressive at times, but sometimes he's also inefficient because he's kind of a little bit hesitant trying to find his way out there. But you've seen this year, we've already talked about how many times that Jared McCain really hasn't been able to get going. Quentin Grimes, since Paul George and Joel Embiid have came back and played more consistent minutes. Overall, he hasn't really been able to get going. So do you think it's like kind of like an identity issue at the current moment? I mean, they obviously have the talent. It's not a talent issue, but then again, regardless of what the identity issues is, should they be losing to a team where, I mean, I'm a Dayton guy, but they started Deron Holmes at center instead of Nikola Jokic the other night, and the Nuggets still ended up putting up 125 points on the Sixers. They
yeah.
should have better defense. I mean, you think about some of the
Well, wait,
defenders
hold
that
on.
they
Let
put
me
out
let me
there.
answer the question. Let me answer the question. So,
Well, I'm trying to like work through it, like actively. What's going on here? Why would
well,
they?
yeah, but I would like to answer the question. To answer the question, what I think went wrong is I think it's more as simple as they played down to their competition. I saw somebody sum it up beautifully on Twitter saying if the Sixers played the 2015 to 2016 Sixers, the game would come down to the final shot. And if the Sixers played the 2015 to 2016 Warriors, the game would come down to the final shot. I think this is a team that plays down to their competition. I think that's what happened last night. And that's not an excuse. I don't think that should ever happen. I think they need to be ready to go up against whomever they play, and they need to play hard like they're playing a great team. I think they lost because that Nuggets team played much harder than they did. Additionally, when we're
Yeah, I
talking about the
agree.
roles, and additionally, when we're talking about the roles, obviously Tyrese Maxey should be the number one guy. But Tyrese Maxey's been the number one guy for a few years now, and he hasn't really been a guy that I would rely on to score the final bucket other than that playoff game against the Knicks. It's something I've talked about before. Joel Embiid, the years he was the number one guy, he was never really reliable with the ball in his hands on the final possession. It might sound crazy to say because he's a rookie and he's so new, but based on what I've seen from him so far with how clutch he is, I want the ball in VJ Edgecombe's hands in the final possession.
Overall, as a
Tyrese Maxey
playmaker, like
tried it in
actually,
overtime and at the end of regulation. He was not able to score. VJ Edgecombe does have a game winner this year. And in the fourth quarter, this past game, he was hitting clutch threes.
here's
It's
a
going to
game winner the other day. Are you talking about as a playmaker overall in general, or are you talking about like actually specifically taking the last shot or
I mean,
setting up the last
specific. Yeah,
shot?
no. Let me clarify. I mean, specifically taking the last shot. I
I
want
also think
VJ
he's
Edgecombe
a good
taking it.
option as a playmaker because he is a pretty decent passer, and the way that he's able to collapse the defense. I mean, Tyrese Maxey is one of the fastest players in the league, and the way he's able to drive and get to the bucket puts a lot of pressure on the defense. But VJ Edgecombe's like able to posterize you, which puts like a whole nother level of pressure on the defense when he drives, as opposed to Tyrese Maxey being able to play above the rim. So um, honestly, I mean, we talked about before how this team's not really reliant on Paul George and Joel Embiid to be like the outlier, like number one and two options anymore. But Paul George is a pretty good option because Paul George, like the one thing he does have, he has like a really extensive bag of being able to put people on the blender 101. So I wouldn't be opposed to Paul George. But let's talk about I mean, since we're talking about the Sixers right now, it is pretty crazy that they would lose to a team that's holding out. I mean, they didn't even play Tim Hardaway Jr. the other night. That's what confuses me. But I feel like they should have better defense and not allow 125 points to the Nuggets I mean, when you look on paper what they're able to put out there on the floor, I mean, Quentin Grimes is able to guard 1, 2, and 3. Paul George is pretty much able to guard 1 through 4. Joel Embiid's coming back into his own as a defensive player. I feel like that was pretty crazy in my opinion, the defensive effort. I think that's what really did them in. And out of 82 games, obviously, you're going to have some dry nights, but it's pretty crazy the talent gap of like how severe it actually was. I mean, the Sixers, any given night, are courting 7 guys that can get 15 points at ease.
Yeah. And speaking of Joel Embiid's defense, I mean, I think one thing we should talk about is just how much better Joel Embiid is looking as a whole, like especially offensively. He's really returning back to form. I saw him make some nice moves in the paint last night. I think Embiid is starting to look really, really good again. He's starting to.
People try to act like he wasn't going to be a factor like of this team, and like the full direction was like Tyrese Maxey. I mean, you obviously get excited when you have the 3rd overall pick, and I'm excited for what VJ Edgecombe's doing, especially when he's able to perform on the big stage of like Madison Square Garden. I mean, he's averaging like 25+ points at Madison Square Garden in the 2 games and to begin his career as a rookie, and that's very impressive. And I mean, we didn't even talk about the double block play that he made the other night. That was pretty crazy. Like he's doing stuff out there. Like
reminds me a lot of Jimmy Butler. I mean, when you look at,
I don't see Jimmy Butler. Not to cut you off, I don't see Jimmy Butler because I feel like Jimmy Butler is like really athletic, but it's more so like strength based. Like VJ Edgecombe has like a top 5 vertical leap like in the entire NBA.
Let me clarify. When I say he reminds me a lot of Jimmy Butler, when I look back at Jimmy Butler's most memorable moment as a 76er in the 1 year that he was here, it was the game against the Charlotte Hornets where the game was tied. The Hornets had the ball for the final possession. And if you remember, Jimmy Butler either he intercepted a pass or he knocked the ball out from a defender's hands and the ball was going out. Or no, he blocked a shot. That's what it was. He blocks a shot. The ball is heading out of bounds. He goes diving out of bounds, tosses it back in, saves it, goes down the other end and ends up hitting the game-winning 3. You know, it's just that ability to make a miraculous play on both ends late in the 4th quarter to lift your team to victory. That is what really reminds me of Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I think like the way that he plays like intensely on both sides of the floor, that's what reminds me. Offensively, I love his offensive game because he's like, I was I don't know how big of like a Dwayne Wade fan you were, but a lot of people are comparing both of them together because it's like they make one triple threat move, like it's one jab step, and then they're right at the rim putting crazy pressure on you. And like when I talked about vertical leap, like it's almost like I'm not the biggest John Morant fan by any means. I actually am like I'm not a John Morant hater, but I just think he was a little bit overhyped coming out. But and you kind of see how he fizzled out. But like the way that John Morant's able to like leap in the air and just jump, and he's just like above the rim as like a 6'2" guy, like VJ Edgecomb's a little bit bigger than John Morant, but like that's like the type of leaping ability. It's like that Derrick Rose effect. Like when he jumps, like he's pretty much can dunk on anybody in the game, and he has like the mentality like he's trying to dunk on anybody in the game.
Yeah, and talking about mentality, that's another comparison to Jimmy Butler. You know, just that fearless competitiveness, just that absolute will to win, the hard worker mentality that is such a mental quality that Jimmy Butler possessed that VJ Edgecombe absolutely has it. I think if you like dissect who Edgecombe reminds you of with each aspect of his game, like offensive skill set, it's Dwayne Wade or Anthony Edwards. The ability to play both sides of the court, it's Jimmy Butler. The mentality, it's Jimmy Butler, or you could maybe even say Kobe Bryant. But
the best part is like you keep naming different players because it's also like it's unique. Like he's not like there's not like a player that's really like him because he does all these different types of things.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like unique, and he also, I mean, you saw him screaming. when they were leaving Madison Square Garden the other day. You also want to see progression from your third overall pick and just getting better. The first month, obviously, he had that outlier 34-point game in his debut. He averaged 21 for the month, and then he kind of slowed in November a little bit. They had a weird schedule with the NBA Cup, and he only averaged 12 points, and he was shooting 31% from three as opposed to 43% in the first month. And then in December, he shot 39%, so he brought that back up 8 points from the last month. In November, when he was slumping, went up to 17 points. He rebounds the ball well too. He's averaging like over 5 rebounds per month. But in January, to start January in the first 3 games, he's averaging 22 points a game, 46% from three, four makes on 8.6 attempts from three in the month of January per game. That's pretty crazy. And he's shooting over 50% from the field as a guard. So he has a 26-point game and a 23-point game. And that's in a showcase game, the first game of the year, New Year's Day, versus Cooper Flagg, the #1 overall pick. And then he goes off in Madison Square Garden, makes that huge double block play, and then also had a solid night, even though he didn't shoot the ball particularly well last night, but he's getting better. Also, Dante, while we're on it, something interesting that I just saw when I was looking at the Sixers roster, Kelly Oubre is questionable for tomorrow night's game.
Really?
The Wizards.
Here's the thing. I think there's good and bad with that. It's going to be great to get Oubre back on the court, but when you look at the first few games, once Embiid, Paul George, Maxey, and Edgecombe started playing all on the court together, they lost those first few games because they had to, figure it out together. And I think they lost last night. I think they figured it out as a unit. So I think maybe with Oubre back, it's going to cause another slight tailspin where they're going to try and.
I want them. You know what I want them to do? I want them to just play you talked about the 4 position being an issue. Like Gershon Yabusele's barely even playing for the Knicks. I don't know if you watched the full game, the Knicks versus Sixers, but they signed him away from the Sixers as such a threat when he played so well for the Sixers last year, and he's barely even really making an impact for the Knicks right now. So maybe he'll be available at the trade deadline. But as for options as the 4, Kelly Oubre comes back. I mean, he's played the small ball 4 before. Paul George can play the small ball 4 and rebound a little bit. VJ Edgecombe averages 5 rebounds a game. Joel's rebounding the ball and playing better defense. I feel like they can kind of get away, and they could probably run Quentin Grimes at the 3 at times and run Paul George or Kelly Oubre at the 4. But they're at the end of the day, they have so much offensive talent where it seems like somebody's just going to end up as the odd guy out. I just don't want it to be Jared McCain because I feel like he has so much potential and could flourish and drop. I'm not saying he's going to be Jalen. I'm not saying he's Jalen Brunson level, like he can expand to that in a different role for another team, but I feel like he could be a 20-point scorer and a really solid guy off the bench. I just hope they don't break up before they figure out exactly what they have, because they haven't had all these guys together for this month, and we know what happens when the trade deadline creeps up in the mid February.
I don't mind McCain being the odd guy, not the odd guy out in terms of if we get rid of him, but in terms of not really getting shots up. I don't mind to him being the odd guy out until he figures out how to, work as a role player, getting limited touches, because I think he will eventually figure it out. And that's just another layer to this team, really. It's once McCain.
I just get nervous that they're gonna. I feel like I get nervous that they're going to spot, they're filling a gap with Quentin Grimes and they're not fully committed to him for the long term. And they're kind of stunting Jared McCain's development by continuing to play Quentin Grimes, that he's not going to be a part of their long-term future. So I just hope that Quentin Grimes, because I like Quentin Grimes as a player and I hope that they can figure something out, but it just seems like it's going to be hard. I mean, I was already surprised that he signed that qualifying offer $8.7 million this year when he was trying to get $25 million, and in another role for another team, he could probably be a 20-point scorer. And he's also a good defender too. So I just feel like I just get nervous that could be the case. But also Adem Bona can play the 4 a little bit too. Maybe they'll experiment with that. Justin Edwards gives them another option as a small ball 4 or a 3 option. So they have some guys. I feel like they need to just clarify the 3 and the 4. Centers, obviously, Joel's getting back to form. If they're actually going to be a team that competes, and Andre Drummond needs to be on this team, that they actually want to make a push.
I agree with that. And to just speak again, go back to what you were saying about small ball 4. I like when they did the opposite. If I noticed when they had Bona and Embiid on the court together with Bona running the 4. I really want to see more of that. And having Andre Drummond on this team allows you to do that. You can run Bona as the 4 and bring Drummond off the bench as the backup 5, or even give Bona backup 5 minutes in the season.
There's some teams that are having success in the league that are playing like more like physical type 4 and 5s that are.
Yeah, well, look at the year the Timberwolves ran Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. They made a deep playoff run that year. That was really working for them. I would like to see more of Embiid and Bona down low at the same time.
Yeah, because he's athletic and he could just be a lob threat. So maybe he develops a 3-point shot. Also, Andre Drummond has developed somewhat of a 3-point shot later on in his career too.
Somewhat. He's legitimately. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago on this podcast. He's legitimately shooting the 3 this season.
He shot last month, December. He shot 33% from 3. In November, let's see when he shot on a limited amount, but he shot 47% from deep in November.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean,
all he needs to ever do is like hit a corner 3. So it's not like
you could put either of those guys at the 4 alongside Embiid. You can make the case for Bona, like you said, he's very athletic. He can be a lob threat. He can defend more of a surface area. And Drummond, you can make the case for him being that he can shoot the 3.
Yeah, and I feel like Justin Edwards.
It's not even like ironically saying that at this point. No, Drummond at this point is a legit 3-point shooter. I don't want to say.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's just more so like
legitimately shoot the 3.
It's more so like you can't just like you will leave him open in the corner, but he's probably going to make one of those shots so that you leave him open in the corner. But I'm actually glad that I brought that up off the top of my head, because we did talk about Andre Drummond getting that shot before, but Joel Embiid's like shooting horrifically actually from deep this year.
Yeah, no, he hasn't been good from.
He's shooting 12% on the month from 3.
I didn't know it was that bad. Wow.
He was shooting 21% last month in December on 4 attempts. So he was only making 1. He shot 15% on 4 attempts, 4+ attempts. So he wasn't even averaging 1 make in November. And he shot 30. He started the year on 39% and was actually taking a decent amount. So he's shooting 23% from 3.
Yeah, that's not good.
But his free throws are at 83%, so that's a little bit down for him, but he's still high free throws. So I think he just needs to tone down, and maybe that's why Andre Drummond also felt like he is a little bit comfortable to shoot those. But yeah, we'll see with the dynamic. I guess the biggest storyline right now for the Sixers, obviously the trade deadline's like rolling around the corner, and that's something you have to think about. But this is a team that a lot of people around the league actually think is going to start to compete. So it's going to be interesting how they start molding to make a playoff run, because everyone's starting to get healthy. And the biggest storyline right now is Kelly Oubre coming back. And if you take away the games played, because Kelly Oubre missed time and they all haven't played together at the same exact time, because it'd be hard for them to be putting this up while they all are playing. But Tyrese Maxey, in the games he's played, 31 games, he's averaging 31. Joel's played 16 games, he's averaging just under 23. Kelly Oubre is the 3rd leading scorer at 16.8 in the 12 games he's played. VJ is averaging 16.5. Paul George is averaging 15.9. And Quentin Grimes is averaging just under 15. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys averaging at right around 15 or more points per game. So
I said, it's absurd. I think really with this team, it's just a matter of putting it all together.
And isn't it crazy to say like? Isn't it crazy? Because I feel like the Spurs, if you watch the Spurs play, they're really good. The Spurs actually have a chance to win the championship this year if they stay healthy. And they have like 7 guys that can drop like 15 at any point. I just named 6 of those guys, averaging literally 1 guy that I just named out of those 6 guys is averaging under 15, and it's by like 0.3 points. And Jared McKean hasn't got going. So they have 7 guys on their roster that can drop 15 at any point.
Yeah, no, like I just said, they just got to put it all together and stay healthy, and this can be a legit playoff contending team. But let's move on. Let's
Real
move
quickly,
on.
I just looked at the back end of the roster too. I feel like you forget a couple guys that are on the roster.
Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry.
Eric Gordon, I wanted to bring him up. Are they saving him for
Who's
like a
another
microwave
guy?
rainy day in the playoffs?
I could see that. I could
Kyle
see that
Lowry will
one year
definitely play in the
that being
playoffs and be in the
viable.
rotation because he'll be physical and just beat up the other point guard, especially if they play like Jalen Brunson or something. Like he's actually a
Oh,
perfect guy to
wait,
roll
hold
out.
on. That reminds me, there was one final thing I wanted to ask. Because the latest NBA All-Star returns came in. What do you think of of Brunson being ahead of Tyrese Maxey in the All-Star voting? To me, I think Maxey is easily having a better season and deserves it ahead of Brunson.
I think the Knicks fan base is stronger than the Sixers fan base is currently.
Yeah,
I've been on the bandwagon. I haven't jumped off, but I mean, like if you hear the dialogue about the Sixers, I mean, you don't hear too much about it now because obviously the Eagles are in the playoffs. But
well,
like,
it also could come down to that. It's just that New York fans have nothing going for them right now, so they're more locked in on basketball than Philly fans.
well, they are pretty. The Knicks fans are always locked in. I'll give them that.
But that's because they never have a good football.
Yeah, but they have been pretty good. I actually do like their coach this year, Mike Brown, the old Cavs coach, an old Warriors assistant. But I also just think like people. Like I said before, I feel like people are just so slept on like the talent they already had, and then just adding the third overall pick in the draft, who's 20 years old, who can jump out of the gym, and like how talented this team like low key is.
It is a wildly talented team. But now it is time to move on to my meatball of the week, and my meatball of the week is Tyler Loop. I kind of hate to do it because I kind of feel bad for the guy. But, he was in a situation to send his team to the playoffs with a game-winning field goal, and he missed. And they missed the playoffs. And not only did they miss the playoffs, but he got his head coach fired. You might argue, well, no, he didn't. The head coach, got fired for other reasons. But I'll tell you right now, if they were in the playoffs, he wouldn't be fired. That's
he
for
would still be
certain.
coaching now.
So, he got his head coach fired. He got his team eliminated from the playoffs. Tyler Loop, you're my meatball of the week.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the biggest, I obviously was rooting for the Ravens for a very long time. And I
was rooting for them.
Too. I hate the Steelers too. I feel about almost as passionately as much
for them. I hate the Steelers. I despise.
I almost feel as passionately about how much I hate the Steelers as much as I hate the Cowboys because I was a Ravens fan for a long time, and I do root for the Ravens, but it's not like anywhere close to the fandom that I used to have for them. But that was definitely a tough loss. But like for some reason, that team always just comes up short in recent memory. With
they did the same exact thing last year with Justin Tucker.
Well, also Mark Andrews was kind of those two. Mark Andrews plays were crazy.
But still, Justin Tucker.
That game was absolutely nuts at the end too. I mean, the Isaiah Likely catch to even put them in position to win that game. Some of the plays Lamar made, I mean, that definitely wasn't on Lamar's hands. We've seen Lamar in big moments come up short before and not play like the Lamar Jackson, but he was actually looked like a vintage Lamar Jackson, like the one sack that he eluded the two guys and threw that bomb to Zay Flowers, and then he threw the other bomb to Zay Flowers to even keep them in that game. But yeah, Eagles' former special teams coordinator, John Harbaugh, is now out of a job, and now he's actually the favorite for the Giants job with them letting go of Brian Dable, obviously, earlier in the season. Kevin Stefanski, another coach that got let go in 6 seasons with the Browns. He's another guy that the Giants might look into. 2-time coach of the year. And he gets fired by the Browns with what they have going on. Pretty crazy, if you ask me. I remember the Raptors, right before they won the championship and hired Nick Nurse, they fired Dwayne Casey, their coach. It was either Raptors or the Pistons. No, he ended up becoming the Pistons coach after that, I'm pretty sure. But the Raptors fired their coach after he won Coach of the Year and then ended up winning the title like the year after they did that. So it was a pretty bold move. But we've seen some coaching changes around the NFL. But let's focus on the teams that actually made the playoffs. Obviously, we had the result of the Eagles versus the San Francisco 49ers. First off, let's start here. We kind of all obviously watched the game and saw what happened. Are you happy that they actually ended up with the seeding and ended up with the 49ers in the slot that they're in? Or do you kind of wish that they would have started the starters? Because, I mean, their offense has had a little bit of dysfunction, especially the second half of the Bills game, and it was kind of bold for them to sit their starters after coming off a half where they really didn't produce, and it came down to the wire and their defense holding on by the skin of their teeth.
So this Eagles team this year has looked a lot better when they've had extended rest. When they've had short rest, they've been really bad. Now, of course, playing next Sunday, that would just be regular rest. It wouldn't be playing on short rest. But I do like the idea to rest the starters, give them a week of running into the playoffs. But I'm also not going to say, oh, well, I like this seeding better anyhow. No, I don't. I would have loved to have gotten the second seed. But, it is what it is. We're here now. We have the third seed. I don't think that having the third seed means we're screwed in the playoffs or anything either. We had the third seed last year and we were able to get it done. So I still think, this is still a team that can get done. I still think this is a defense that can ball out in the playoffs.
And the team the team that they were chasing, the Bears, who ended up losing their game, and the Lions, I actually predicted that was like a plus 160 money line. I thought the Lions would win that game and still be competitive, and they were. The Bears are a team that could be on upset alert by the 7-seed Packers, so the Eagles could easily end up with a home game. And then if Seattle gets taken out in the second round of the playoffs, who has a bye, then they could have the same setup.
And that's exactly how it shaped out. That's exactly how it shaped out last year, and I can definitely see the path to that happening again this year.
Are you a conspiracy theory guy?
No.
Should we look into why Josh Johnson was the guy that ended up beating the Eagles, the guy who came in for Brock Purdy in the NFC Championship a couple years ago?
Johnson's revenge game.
And he beats the Eagles to set up another rematch for Brock Purdy to have redemption versus the Eagles, possibly in Philadelphia. So we look into that. Is that like a YouTube rabbit hole that we're going to be on after this podcast? Are we going to get classified that?
It was Josh Johnson's revenge game. By the way, Josh Johnson has the funniest Wikipedia page of any NFL player in history.
I got $5 for you. You have to look me in the eyes right now. You have to put your hands up too, like I'm a police officer, so I know you're not typing anything. If you can name 7 teams that Josh Johnson's been on.
Well, he started his career on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's one. I know he's played for the 49ers. I know he's played for the Commanders. I know he's played for the Ravens. Whom else? I want to say the Bills.
Wait, who'd you say he started? Okay, you were correct.
Am I correct so far? I have.
Yeah. Once you name one wrong one, I'm eliminating you. So don't say what you just said, and I just saved you one.
Well, I'm asking if the 5 teams I named so far are correct.
Name them again.
Buccaneers, Commanders, 49ers, Bills, Ravens.
Incorrect. I just told you not to say the Bills, and you said it.
Well, I didn't know which team you were referring to when you said don't say that again.
Yeah, the Jets. You missed the Jets.
Missed the Jets.
Cincinnati, a little brief stint in Cincinnati, too.
Yeah.
Another brief stint in Cleveland, too. A couple AFC North trips early in the career.
He's had a couple different stints with the Commanders as well. But yeah, I mean, what a career for him. By the way,
dude, I you know how I talked about like being on the Sixers bandwagon, and there's proof I never jumped off one bandwagon that I might hurt my right knee that's already severely been hurt in my life jumping off. We're talking about a player that won the game because of this player, who's a guy that I've been high on since he's been drafted by the Eagles, and it's time to officially abort ship. He's not really a crucial player at this point.
Oh, are we talking about Kool-Aid Ringo?
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, no, we've both been high on him. Yeah, it's time to.
He's decent on special teams, but as a defensive player, he's horrible.
I was kind of already off the Ringo shit, but now it's like I'm sprinting far away.
Now I think he's not going to be an Eagle for that. Like he might get cut He might get cut in the off
Must
season,
have
like,
stock.
and he's still young, but like, yeah, that ship has
Yeah, no,
sailed.
he's absolute dog shit. He recreated the Nathan Gary meme, which I sent to you last week, and I said, "Remember this?" He recreated that.
I didn't know you were. I honestly didn't know what you were honestly talking about for some reason. I obviously saw the play and everything. I didn't know what you were referring to. I was like thinking more so about linebacker play, and I kind of overthought the actual visual that you were trying to show me.
But yeah, he recreated it, but even worse because I was over at my cousin's house. We were looking at that meme and we wanted to find the exact play that it was. And we went digging through the highlights from that game and we finally found it. It was a play that happened in overtime. And it wasn't nearly as egregious as the Keeley Ringo play. The photo makes it look more egregious, but when you look at both plays, the Ringo play was a lot more egregious. He looked absolutely.
Well, this is like the visual. In any moment, you can decipher that this is like a goal line situation. Like there's like the fate of a touchdown or not a touchdown, and you're watching it. Like you can see that there's no chance he's going to be able to recover, even athletic as he is. But so the Eagles did something interesting last year. Obviously, they started Tanner McKee week 18 and didn't allow Saquon to go for the record. Saquon had like a scrimmage yards or like 1,000 yards. I think he was like close to another 1,000-yard season, and they didn't allow him to play, but they allowed Devontae Smith to play to get his over receiving yards, which he ended up getting quickly. Any thoughts on that at all? Do you think they're low-key paying Saquon out again for the scrimmage yards and just keeping him healthy for the playoffs? The incentive.
Oh, so you're saying Saquon had a scrimmage yards incentive?
Yeah, he's got it built into his contract, obviously, and that's like the stipulations.
But how close was he to that incentive?
I'm not sure what the exact incentive was, but I'm pretty sure that's like a
because that obviously is a big factor. I mean, we knew how close Devontae Smith was to 1,000 yards. If Saquon was like 100,
he was like he had 1,000 yards rushing. He was 60 yards away from 1,200 yards rushing, which is like a pretty 1,200 to 1,250 is a pretty like common benchmark for like thresholds of rushing yards.
Well,
and he was also 87 yards away from 1,500 scrimmage yards altogether too. And he was one touchdown away from. He was also one touchdown away from double-digit touchdowns. He ended up with 9 touchdowns, 7 rushing, and 2 total. So 2 receiving. So I mean, I was just asking. I feel like they'll
declined to play, or I mean, we don't really know the full story on any of it. But speaking of running backs, I mean,
one guy real quickly that did get his incentive was Von Miller, who got paid for that sack that he had late.
I was at the game. And when he recorded the sack and the PA announcer or whatever you call it said, brought down by Von Miller, me and my cousin who were at the game were like, Von Miller? Like we didn't even know he was on the Commanders.
You're sleeping. You know how many sacks Von Miller had this year?
How many?
9. It's 2.5 more than any Eagle. Speaking of that, we have to give absolute. I mean, we talked about this guy being a favorite to get a contract over Nolan Smith as in edge rushers. Eagles history, Jalen Hunt's the first defensive player ever for the Eagles to lead the team in sacks and interceptions with that interception. Did I not tell you I give you a couple gems a year on the podcast, long-term gem values? Did I not say with Jalen Hunt how athletic their linebackers are, that they would have crazy pass coverage? And I specifically highlighted Jalen Hunt being able to drop into coverage in the end of the season with the most interceptions. I said that when they drafted Jahad Campbell, how athletic these linebackers are as an overall group.
If you said specifically Jalen Hunt is going to
dude, I literally said in 3-4. You don't remember this conversation?
We're going to have to go back and find that clip. I don't know.
I know you're hard hearing because you still have yet to shave your head, and we're in the playoffs now of this season. So
I decided to do the opposite thing.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to hold you to that standard because we are men of our word on the podcast. We don't just say stuff. I mean, you do, but
no, actually,
I said in 3-4 specific fronts.
I'll shave it.
I said in 3-4 specific fronts that Jalen Hunt has the opportunity to drop in pass coverage because he used to be a safety, and that's something that I mentioned a few times in the beginning of the season. But we also both were, I mean, to toot both of our horns, we both were Cooper DeJean guys before now. Like Think about like how popular Cooper DeJean is in Philadelphia, and we were like talking about them drafting him in the first round over Quinyon Mitchell. Imagine if they just like Cooper DeJean, obviously, since he's been one of the most popular players on the Eagles since he's been drafted. But imagine if they ended up with Cooper DeJean still, but used the first round pick on him and didn't ever have Quinyon Mitchell and didn't have both of them. That's like something that's going to go down. That might go down. What do you think will go down in Eagles history when we look back on it in 20, 25 years as more important, pairing Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown together or pairing Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell together?
I think maybe the latter, just because, I think they're going to, we got them both as rookies. So I think, they're going to end up spending a lot more time together in their primes versus how many years we're going to get out of.
Yeah, but don't sleep on Devontae and AJ were the reason we got to the first Super Bowl to get us like over the threshold of just getting to the Super Bowl with Nick Sirianni. And then they've been apart for both of the runs as opposed to just one of the runs.
Well, yeah. Well, if we're talking right now, it's Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. But if we're talking, when it's all said and done, I think it's a good chance of.
Who's another position group duo that is like a sleeper that's creeping up in there too is Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Like the way that they make like those special teams plays.
Well, not only those two, but what about the season Moro Jomo has had?
Yeah, he was second in the team
with what, 6 sacks himself. He had a great year, maybe even 6.5. He might have tied Jalen Hunt in sacks, with Jalen Hunt breaking the record on a technicality almost. Jomo has had a phenomenal season, but the guy I want to talk about, I was saying before he needs to get more touches. I think this past game was the biggest, showcase wants to get more touches. That's Tank Bigsby. Up until he's still in the fourth quarter for whatever reason. I think that costed them the game probably more than anything. But Tank Bigsby, I mean, he really played well. He's just so impossible to bring down. He really runs hard.
He's like the most like north and south determined runner. He's a lot more athletic, but obviously Jay Ajayi was really good at the time. But like LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi, like Tank Bigsy's more agile side to side than both those guys, but they're obviously a little bit more physical of runners. But the way that those guys just went straight up north to south, like it's just going straight forward. That's what he reminds me of. And he's just like a different type of runner than Saquon. He's a really refreshing. And obviously, since they traded for him in season, we didn't account for him in the preseason. But we talked about like we were trying to figure out the role that A.J. Dillon was going to play for the Eagles this year. And Tank Bigsby is by far that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, too, because sometimes you forget A.J. Dillon is even on the roster. But
because Will Shipley gets used more than A.J. Dillon.
I was going to say to think that when we traded for Tank Bigsby, we were using him as a punt returner. Or
they were just trying to get the ball in his hands, but I feel like all the issues, it wasn't like
just looking back, it's like he's so much better utilized as a downhill runner out of the back.
I got to show love too to Britton Covey.
It's so stupid looking back on it.
We have to show love to Britton Covey too, because Britton Covey like slowly like reassured that position after Xavier Gibson was like made everybody have heart attacks. The Rams game was crazy. I mean, if Cardi didn't get that kick blocked at the end of the game, he was going to win Special Teams Player of like the week over Jordan Davis for the way that he was pinning the Eagles with those kicks. But I feel they have an X factor at special teams because I mean Jake Elliott. I guess that's a topic.
I think depending on how the playoffs go, they need to move on from Jake after this year. But just looking at Britton Covey, talking about Britton Covey, and Britton Covey, those are 2 of 3 guys that wait, hold on. Britton Covey is one of 3 guys that the Eagles brought back during the season that have made a big impact on this team, right? Look at the first guy they brought back, Fred Johnson. I mean, thank God they brought him back because you saw how Matt Pryor was playing at right tackle before they put Fred Johnson.
He played a lot. He played a lot.
Could you imagine if this whole time Lane Johnson was out, Matt Pryor was playing right tackle? It would be a disaster.
He played a lot on Sunday too. Like
impact since coming back. So has Britton Covey. And the third guy obviously came out of retirement, Brandon Graham. He hasn't made as big of an impact, in my opinion, as Fred Johnson, more so on the level of Britton Covey. But all three guys have returned to the Eagles midseason and have made impacts on this team.
Brandon Graham's like what ended the Eagles season like top 5 in sacks, and he's played like 20 total defensive snaps. But Fred Johnson played a lot on Sunday, and then Nolan Smith was playing like almost the entire game on Sunday too. I guess they were trying to get him a little bit more active out there. But Nolan Smith, don't forget, just like Devontae Smith is the all-time leading receiver already for the Eagles in playoff history, Nolan Smith is the all-time sacks leader in Eagles playoff history. So maybe he's just a big-time performer. And then Jalen Phillips, we haven't really seen it. We've seen him like strip sack the quarterback, but we haven't seen him like really just like straight up tackle a quarterback to the ground in a passing situation that often. But I feel like that we might see an uptick in the playoffs. And the Eagles are going to get really aggressive. And then I'm really excited for this defense. But we have an advantage special teams wise because our defensive linemen are so aggressive blocking kicks, and that's like an element that's like shown that the Eagles can consistently do that at random points in time. But should we be concerned at special teams with Jake Elliott going into the playoffs? I mean, last year Jake Elliott holds a crazy playoff style. What is it? He has was it extra points that he had issues with in the playoffs? I think he's the all-time leader.
Last year, the way I remember it last year is he was bad all regular season and then stepped up in the playoffs. Maybe he still was missing extra points, and I just shot that out of my memory. But that's how I remember. That's how I remember it.
I think Jake Elliott has the worst extra point percentage in playoff history. And has like the highest field goal percentage made in playoff history as the two opposites. I'm almost positive. Let's see. I'm trying to 36. It was some funky like that, but extra points. Yeah, I think he missed a couple extra points in last year's playoffs, but I mean, obviously this year he's one of the worst kickers in the NFL. He's a two,
and he was last year as well.
Kickers like are tough, like because like Justin Tucker had the scandal, but he was like the greatest kicker of all time before all that happened, had so much history in Baltimore. Jake Elliott's like one of 4 guys that has won 2 Super Bowls with the Eagles, a part of both runs, but it might actually be time to move on from him. And Braden Mann's actually a weapon of being able to pin teams back. He's had a couple of dinker punts, but at the end of the day, Braden Mann steps up in big moments and really pins, and especially when Braden Mann like gets going. I didn't expect myself to get excited about the Eagles punting game on the podcast, but when he gets going, like he consistently drops punts inside the 10-yard line. So, and obviously with how good the defense is and the pressure the defense puts on teams, that could
he's a really great punter and so much better than Aaron Sipos.
But the Eagles have issues with the kick return game a little bit, and they have issues with their kicker. So kick extra points and field goals could be an issue in the kick return game, but they also block kicks on the other end and they cover kicks pretty well. So hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt them. But versus the 49ers, Brock Purdy's kind of like a gunslinger. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he kind of just airs it out there. I mean, you saw him win versus the Colts where he throws a pick 6 on the first play of the game and then ends up lighting it up after that. Obviously, the 49ers have some really good skill position players, but they're always seem to be banged up. But Christian McCaffrey is one of the best skill position players of all time. George Kittle, one of the better tight ends of all time. Juwan Jennings steps up in big moments. Ricky Pearsall isn't really reliable because he gets hurt all the time, but he can step up and make plays. Kendrick Bourne can be a guy that can make plays at times. And Christian McCaffrey, I mean, catches the ball in the backfield like a wide receiver. So I feel like, I mean, he came 60 or 70 yards short of another 1,000 to the first player ever to have 2,000-yard rushing and receiving seasons in one season. So I feel like the matchup for the Eagles defense is really going to be like Nakobe Dean out of the backfield and Zach Bond out of the backfield matching up with Christian McCaffrey. Or
Yeah, and we did hear that. And we did hear that Nakobe Dean is expected to return for the playoff game, which is absolutely huge news. I mean, if you think about, the prototypical linebacker that could match up against Christian McCaffrey, it is Nakobe Dean. I think
I actually disagree. I think the prototypical guy,
Really?
I think Jahad Campbell might be a guy who actually could shine early in his career with his athleticism and match up with Christian McCaffrey. I like Nakobe Dean in passing situation because he's such a low-key pass rusher. I mean, he had 4 sacks this season himself, and we talked about before that crazy stat.
I look at Nakobe as a smaller linebacker who's very fast and can, play the passing game in
Well,
coverage.
Jahad Campbell's bigger and more athletic and faster than Nakobe Dean, but he's obviously not as mentally refined as him. So it'll be interesting to see how they use the backers.
Think about like this, right? Nakobe Dean, the one knock on him can be his size, right? But when you're asking him to match up against a 5'11" running back, then that lack of size isn't.
Yeah, but he's not the great. I don't think anybody would say Nakobe Dean's the best in pass coverage. He's not even like top 2 pass coverage linebackers on the Eagles.
Me personally,
I just think he has a different skill trait. I mean, he has 4 sacks for a reason. He had that crazy stat back in the day when at Georgia where he had more sacks in one season than Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter combined together, and that's a skill trait. Zach Bond can rush the passer and pass coverage, so it's going to be interesting to see how the backers, and they're going to also probably the matchup with George Kittle at times too. So it's going to be interesting to see with that. They don't really have Debo. The dynamic of a guy like Debo in the past really hurt the Eagles, especially that one game a couple years ago in the regular season where he went for 3 touchdowns. They don't have that element to their offense, and Brandon Ayuk has had the good games versus the Eagles as well in the past. So I feel like if the Eagles can really focus on George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and make guys like Jawan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne consistently beat them, they'll have a really good chance because those guys do beat different defenses, but with how good and refined this Eagles defense is,
they're not going to have it as much success against our corner. So I do agree with you. It is going to come down to limiting McCaffrey and George Kittle and forcing Brock Purdy into making mistakes, in my opinion. I think that's going to be a big key is, send some blitzes, put some pressure on Brock Purdy, make him, try to make a split second.
Well, the offense is also going to dictate
him slipping up.
The offense is going to dictate how the 49ers play, too, because the offense can't be dry to where it just keep putting the defense out there expecting stops, especially when the field position.
No, yeah, absolutely. That as well. You cannot expect them to play the entire fourth quarter.
Because the scary part about the 49ers is they're able. The scary part about the 49ers is Christian McCaffrey's so good as a runner and as a pass catcher where if they get a lead, they could lean on him as a running back. And then they have Brian Robinson Jr. too, who's a decent running back, who's physical, where they could really pound the rock on you if they get a lead. So that would be something I'm a little bit nervous about. Their defense is pretty banged up for the 49ers. Obviously, their first-round pick, Williams from Alabama tore his ACL this year. Bose is out for the season with another torn ACL. Did you see the video of Fred Warner scaling that building in his rehab?
No, I did not.
Yeah, he's doing parkour stuff. He's a freak. I don't know if he's playing or not, but actually, I don't think he's going to be back.
Do you know if we have Makuba back for this game or not? I don't think I heard a word on Makuba. I heard word on Johnson and Dean, but I don't know if I heard anything.
No, I'm pretty sure Makuba's done for the season. I mean, he had
I don't think they ever announced he was out for the year.
He had the fracture too. So I don't think he'd be somebody that'd be on the timeline where he need that bye week in between the
Well, Marcus Epps has to play
come back healthy.
I'm not as worried about that.
He was placed on injured reserve. Estimated return date's January 11th, so maybe if they get past this week, he'll be back.
Well,
Frank Alcantara got banged up.
Take place on the 11th, so Who knows? I guess we'll look at the practice reports throughout the week, but maybe there is a chance he suits up on Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm looking at another guy who we haven't mentioned in forever, who was supposed to be such a big part. He was somebody that so everybody was hyped about being an acquisition and just hasn't done anything. And he's been on injured reserve, Azeez Ojulari. And the solution for the Eagles was always on the roster already with Jalix Hunt.
Yeah, Uche, we finally saw him this past game. I forgot.
He's going to play a role. He'll play some snaps. Brandon Graham will play some snaps. So their pass rush, hopefully, they'll be a lot fresher.
One guy they acquired who I think it's safe to say at this point we're not going to see, because last we heard from him, he said he was going to, get mentally right and then return to the field. And that
I haven't even thought about his name since like 2 days after he said that. And there's no expectation.
And that's exactly
what I'm expecting.
Wait, hold on. Let me at least say his name, because that's exactly what I'm saying. I think it's safe to say we're not going to see him at all. He's going to go down as one of the Frank Gores of the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the Marquise Goodwins of the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the Miles Jacks of the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is Jair Alexander. I think it's safe to say we're not seeing him at any point in time.
Do you think he gets a Super Bowl ring if they end up winning the Super Bowl?
No.
I think they'll end up doing that. There were some offensive linemen, some reserve offensive linemen that sold his Super Bowl ring for the Eagles, and like NJ.com.
I saw that. Yeah,
less than a year after winning the Super Bowl, and like I've never even heard of the dude. He had to be like the 93rd guy on their practice squad.
It was just practice squad only.
Yeah, honestly. So that's pretty crazy. That's disrespectful.
But you know what? Speaking of practice squad only, I do want to give a quick shout out. I know it's a shout out you're not going to care about at all. You're probably going to roll your eyes. But a technical former Philadelphia Eagle, a guy who attended minicamp as a running back, I think in 2016, made his WWE main roster debut this past Friday night. That's Trick Williams. That's that Trick man. Former Philadelphia Eagle made his WWE debut. Technically.
Yeah, I could care less about that. Let's talk about the Phillies real quick, though. I mean, let's give a prediction. So the Eagles, I used to like wrestling back in the day, but now I think it's corny if you like it as a grown man, honestly. But Eagles are 4.5-point favorites at home. You get the 3-point favorite as a home to begin with. So technically the Eagles are 1.5-point favorites over the 49ers. Their money line on ESPN and looking at
favorites. I don't like that line.
DraftKings has them as -230 on the money line, -4.5.
That's a tight.
The open was -3. So the open was -3, so they were pretty much a pick'em line as the open, and it's been to a 1.5 Eagles favor. ESPN Index Analytics has the Eagles with a 56.3% chance of winning, as opposed to the 49ers 43.7% chance. Brock Purdy, 20 touchdowns, 10 interceptions this year. Obviously, he was hurt for some time, and Mac Jones played as well. Christian McCaffrey, the leading receiver and rusher, with over 100 catches as a running back. They don't really have too much sack production either, with their first-round pick, top 10 pick, getting hurt, and Nick Bosa. So their leading sack getter has less sacks than the Eagles, and it's former 4th overall pick of Clemson from the Raiders, Clelin Ferrell, with 4 sacks on the season, and Jalix Hunt leading the Eagles with 6.5. And then since Fred Warner's been hurt, Winters is their leading tackler. D. Winters, former 6th-round pick of 2023, and the Eagles' leading tackler is Zach Bond. So injury report, questionable Jalen Phillips, but I think if he would have to get shot to not play. That's no pun intended to Ricky Pearsall. I apologize for that.
Why would you? Nobody would have thought that was.
I had to tie it in because
you even said that.
I brought that up because did you see the dude in college basketball that put the caption up "Fear No One" and he put up the gun? It's a picture of him shooting the gun after making a 3 at a player in college basketball on Michigan State. Jeremiah Fears. It's not Jeremiah Fears. Fears Jr. is his name. Jeremiah Fears, I think, is the 1st-round pick of the Pelicans. But there's a dude, Michigan State, that missed time in college basketball for getting shot and a white dude put up on his Instagram, "Fear no one," pun intended last name, with a picture of him firing a shot at the dude that had missed time for getting shot in a college basketball game, and then took the comments away, the ability to comment on the Instagram post, and didn't take down the post. Do you think that's disrespectful?
That's insanely disrespectful. That's
Also,
here.
Ricky Pearsall's not the only guy that could have hit home with, because Brian Robinson actually got shot too, the backup running back on the 49ers.
I didn't even know about that. You know what I learned of the other day?
I did not know about that. You don't remember the picture of the video of him from when he was in Washington coming out the Many Men with 50 Cent?
Oh, I do remember that. But you know what I learned of the other day that I couldn't believe was a true story? Back in 2013, at a Brazilian soccer match, there was a player who the ref gave a red card to. So then the player got into a heated argument with the ref over the red card. I swear to you, this is a true story. You can look it up. The ref then proceeds to pull out a knife and stab the player. The player gets rushed to the hospital, dies in the hospital while the game is still going on. All the fans are seeing on their phones that the player has now died. He played for that home team. So when the fans saw that the player died, they rushed the field, killed the ref, and beheaded him on the field. This is a true story from 2013. I could not believe that. I was shocked.
That's just a lot to digest as I'm just looking at the Eagles injury report, trying to bring up guys, and you're
because
talking about outrageous
like
stuff.
somebody posted it on TikTok, one of those animation things telling the story, and I was like, oh, okay, this is just brain rot. This never happened. And I looked it up. No, it happened. It was real. Insane. But you were
another safety for the Eagles after all that. A lot to digest for there that Dante just brought up. Marcus Epps had a concussion last week as well, so we'll see. Actually, no, Marcus Epps got it had a weird practice injury where he told the trainers after he was having some symptoms, and then got diagnosed for the concussion. So with Makuba actually banged up, that's actually interesting. Hopefully he's healthy, because as good as this defense is, I do not want to watch Sidney Brown out there just going do or die every single play, going full speed, either do or die every single time. I can't handle that. I can't, especially I
agree with you on that.
I feel like that could be bad news in a pass coverage game, and I just don't want to see that. But let's turn our attention. I feel like we both are on the side of the Eagles, obviously winning. What's going to be a score prediction for the Eagles?
I am barely on the side of the Eagles winning. I just, for whatever reason, I am extremely nervous about this game. I think maybe just because it's a playoff game, and I hate to lose playoff games, but I am extremely nervous. I'm not saying with full confidence I think the Eagles are going to win. If you put a gun to my head and said who's going to win this game, I'll say Eagles, but with little confidence.
Who has more pressure in the NFL than the Eagles, honestly, right now? The Ravens maybe could been argued that, and they're already eliminated. Maybe the Bills with Josh Allen finally getting over the hump, but there's a lot of newcomers and new blood at the top of both conferences. So I feel like the Eagles, now with the Chiefs eliminated, the spotlight's on the Eagles to become that new dynasty, and I feel like they have a lot of pressure on them, but I think they will prevail.
Well, I think they have pressure on them for an opposite reason, because for some godforsaken reason, I don't understand how, but there are people saying fire Sirianni again. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. I mean, he's been to the playoffs every single year. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won a Super Bowl. No, his job should be the last job put into question. I would say the fourth last job put into question behind Howie Roseman, Jeff Stoutland, and Jalen Hurts. But I just, as a guy who is a big supporter of Nick Sirianni, I just really, really would hate for them to lose round 1 and then start to see everybody come out of the woodworking saying fire Sirianni, because I do feel like that would be the reality if they were to lose round 1 in the playoffs. Speaking of which, can we talk about, and we didn't talk about this at all, but can we talk about how for the past few weeks, WIP was saying start Tanner McKee. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous.
I
And
haven't even listened to it, but I mean,
I haven't listened to it
the
either.
one
I've
saying
just
that
seen it all over Twitter.
you were the one saying Tanner McKee was a starting quarterback in the NFL, which couldn't be further than the truth. He's
I
not a
was
starting
saying
quarterback
he
in the
was
NFL.
better than Kenny Pickett because this was a big argument last year.
You were trying. You made him out to be
Pickett, and I still stand by that. He's still much better than Kenny Pickett.
okay. And also, you were trying to act like a team would trade a first or a second or a third round pick from him, which is blasphemous.
I think you're getting me confused with the media because I never said.
No, you went on tangents about him. We would argue about him.
No, because I've always been on the side of keep Tanner McKee because he's valuable as a backup and not trade him for a pick. So I was not one to say we should trade him for a first or second round pick. That I would have been one of the last.
I don't think anybody in the NFL and no GM has ever even thought about offering anything more than a day 3 pick ever for Tanner McKee. But
that was a topic upon the media. They were saying, should you trade Tanner McKee for a second round?
But I wanted to talk about how it's like at the end of the day, like as Eagles fans, we dealt with this through all the 3 or 4 different eras of like true like solidified eras of our childhood being 28 years old.
This fan base is obsessed with the idea of putting in the backup quarterback. It's
the quarterback or the coach every single time.
Listen, let me say this. I am still a fan of Tanner McKee. Do not get me wrong, but I've never been anywhere close to the side of start him over Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is the guy, and I've been saying it ever since 2021. I would never even entertain the idea of benching him for Tanner McKee, especially not this season when you look at it in the grand scope of things, he's had a very good season, and the Eagles are once again division champions. Coming off
people just
Super Bowl MVP performance.
People just want to blow up the ship for no reason, and it's like, at no point in Jalen Hurts' career should he have ever been benched at any point of his career since he's taken over as a starter. The Eagles' last Super Bowl winning coach, their first coach that got them over the hump to win a Super Bowl, lost his job for not benching Carson Wentz soon enough. So I don't think that type of controversy is going to rear its head again because we saw what happened last time and we had to rebuild.
Well, here's the thing. The Philadelphia media loves to stir up that kind of controversy. And if you go on Twitter for weeks, because people have been taking screenshots of it, quoting tweets from WIP, taking screenshots of WIP's post. They've been saying for weeks, should the Eagles start Tanner McKee over Jalen Hurts? It's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, granted, obviously, most of it is rage bait for engagement. But just the idea to even bring it up as a topic, just in general, it's just absolute ludicrous, rage bait or not. And obviously, if the Eagles do lose in round 1, that's not really going to be anything anybody is talking about besides WIP. But if they lose round 1, I think there are going to be people that are going to be saying fire Sirianni, which I will entirely disagree with. I just would hate to see those arguments even come about. That's another reason why I'm like very nervous for this game against the 49ers. I won't be upset. Listen, I won't be upset if the Eagles get eliminated early because I'm just happy they got their ring last year. I don't ever feel that way.
I never go down that road. I think every year's a fresh slate, and I think they're still, regardless. I mean, last year they had issues later on in the season with their offense, and then they put up 95 points in the Super Bowl and NFC Championship combined. So I believe in them, and I'm going to say something bold too. I would put Sam Howell in a playoff game if Jalen Hurts got hurt before I put Tanner McKee in. And I don't even think that's crazy to say. I think 80% of people would agree with that.
I'm entirely going to have to disagree with you on that one. Tanner McKee, I mean, let's think about this, right?
We're talking about a guy who's had a full 17 games of starting in the NFL.
Well, let's look at it like this, right? Every time I advocated that Tanner McKee was better than Kenny Pickett, because that's always been the argument I've gone back to. But anytime I've ever advocated for Tanner McKee, your argument has always been, well, you're going off of one game, or you're just going off of preseason, or you're just going off of this or that. So why is it that after 2 preseasons, one NFL star and one game where he played in the entire second half in an NFL game. Why was that not enough to say Tanner McKee looks good as a quarterback? But yet one game where he looked bad, then it's enough to say Tanner McKee isn't good. Why is that that one game hold more weight than all of the other examples?
I mean, you're like glamoring over a Week 18 versus the Giants, and
you're looking at a Week 18 versus the Commanders. Do you not see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'll take when he plays bad versus a bad team, as opposed to him playing decent versus a bad team. I'm gonna go on the other side of it. And if you forget the last time
starting defense though with a backup offense, do you know how hard that is to do? To have
do you remember how many points? Do you remember how many points the Eagles beat the Commanders by both times when Sam Howell was the quarterback for the Commanders 2 years ago? Was it a combined 3 or 6 points total in both games, and he threw
just lost
6 touchdown passes?
On the Commanders.
Okay, I'm not going to argue about it, but Sam Howell has more experience and has done more in the NFL than.
Well, all right, put the Sam Howell argument aside. What I'm saying is, I don't think it's fair that every time I advocate for Tanner McKee, you say, oh, well, it's not enough of a sample size. And then one bad game, that one game is enough of a sample size. I don't think that's right.
I'm talking about who I would feel more comfortable about, because
I know, but I'm saying put that aside for a second.
I think Sam Howell's more talented than Tanner McKee is.
I would argue that, but I think
and Tanner McKee will protect the ball a lot more than Sam Howell would, but Sam Howell would be able to get the ball to our playmakers. So I would feel comfortable.
And I think Tanner McKee would as well if we had our playmakers on the field and not Jahan Dotson and Darius Cooper. But let's move on from the Tanner McKee argument. Let's talk. Well, actually, yeah, I mean, we kind of have talked about what we expect from the playoffs. So let's move on to talk about.
You see that last ticker down there? I got the Phillies. Will the Phillies retain?
That's what I was about to say.
Ranger?
Let's talk about the Phillies.
JT, Ranger, either or both.
I mean, I would hope they bring back both. But
that's actually interesting, because today, if
I had to choose one, JT.
I went to go get coffee before the podcast. And it was like 5 o'clock, and they actually had I turned on WIP for the first time and listened to it for more than 10 minutes for the first time in months. Not because of what they were talking about. I just haven't been in my car, and I'm like very obligated when I'm in my car a lot, like if I'm driving home from somewhere, to listen. But if I'm not in my car, I don't really like go onto the app as much to like listen to the radio station. But they had a breaking news alert, and I thought it was going to be JT Philly news or Ranger news or Philly related news, but it was the John Harbaugh getting fired. But we're now into 2026. Spring training will actually be creeping up on us like mid-February, a lot sooner than expected, and they'll be reporting in like less than 40 days. I mean, or right around 40 days. What do you think about the current situation? Because I feel like they're not as pressed because they have a lot of pitching talent on their roster, even though there are question marks of Zach Wheeler's health, obviously, and Aaron Nola kind of on the downturn when he just got that contract, but they still have talent at the starting pitching position. But at catcher, there is no answer if JT isn't the catcher as of right now.
Yeah, and that's why I'm leaning more towards JT, because there is an answer if Ranger Suarez isn't a Philly next year. They do have other guys at starting pitcher. You are expecting for Andrew Painter to finally come up as a starter. So there is an answer outside of Ranger Suarez. But yeah, you said it exactly right. I mean, they have nobody else outside of JT. You can't expect Rafael Marchand to be your starting catcher and to compete.
As much as I fantasize, not to be weird, but I fantasize about them having a true switch hitter in their lineup. It's not in the form of Rafael Marchand. It's Ketel Marte and trading Bryson Stott and Alec Bowman.
Unless you keep Ranger Suarez and make a trade for Adley Rutschman. There's your switch hitter right there.
He's Adley Rutschman's like, he's always hurt though. He's like,
I know we already had a whole argument about.
I was a big Adley Rutschman fan, but like he's just not.
We've already had this conversation about him. I was just making a little comment. We don't have to get into is it worth it or not to trade for Adley Rutschman. We've done this already.
I almost said something bold, and then I held myself back a little bit. what's his name? I think our boy is still in free agency, if I believe correctly, right?
Who?
Oh no, I forgot they picked up his option for $20 million for no reason. The White Sox and Luis Robert.
Oh,
So maybe he'll be a trade deadline. The Yankees actually are all listening on Jazz Chisholm after his whole OnlyFans controversy with whatever's going on with his.
I did not hear about that.
Yeah, we don't have to bring that
But
up.
I don't know if you saw the report. I saw it either this morning or yesterday morning. Apparently, the Cincinnati Reds were prepared to offer Kyle Schwarber more money to go to Cincinnati, and Kyle Schwarber told them, "Don't even worry about it," and signed with the Philadelphia Phillies.
That's not the report I heard months ago. I heard the Phillies actually got into a bidding war, and that was the last straw. The Phillies had to extend the offer and give the 150 because of
I'm just telling you what I heard more recently than that.
That was the news that came out like right as that happened. There was also other Phillies news. The Phillies added a pretty notable name to their clubhouse, not in the form of a player, but Don Mattingly is now a base coach for the Phillies.
It was Bob Nightingale. Yeah, he reported that this morning. The Reds were prepared to offer Kyle Schwarber more money until he told them it wasn't necessary. Cincinnati, and then it says in quotes, Cincinnati.
Well, that was probably after
with the Reds even willing to offer more until Schwarber told them it wasn't necessary, and then he went to the Phillies.
Well, that's probably after the Phillies' last offer came in. But the Phillies had Don Mattingly, who was a base coach for the Toronto Blue Jays, who made the World Series last year.
Oh yeah, that is good news.
Interesting thing, but yeah. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens with.
Wait a minute. Is this an incorrect report, or do we have breaking Cooper DeJean news? Hold on. Let me try and verify this.
All right, hold that thought 1 second. I'll be right back. Did you get this thought?
Via TMZ. So I think it is official. Cooper DeJean, an absolute dog, is dating Nikki Bella. It is official. That's my guy. That's my guy. Are you kidding? He's killing it, man. He's killing it. I mean, how could you blame him? She may be 42, but hey, if she's 42, he's 42. You feel me? You feel me? Shout out my dog, Cooper DeJean. One could say if she's 42, he's Chris Maragos. If she's 42, he's... Who else wore 42 for the Eagles? Don't tell me Nathan Gary. Did Nathan Gary wear 42? Don't tell me. That's not a good one. No, he wore 47. Who were past Eagles to wear 42? Number 42. Who else we got? Kurt Coleman, Keith Byers. Who else we got? John Booty. I mean, that's kind of that kind of fits here.
I apologize. It took actually 126 episodes for me to be interrupted by a bathroom break mid podcast, but I drank a gigantic coffee and the Propel, and I just could not hold it any longer. But
it is official.
Had no clue
Cooper DeJean is officially dating Nikki Bella. I mean, shout out to my guy Coop.
I forgot completely what you were talking about for a second, or where you're even going to go with that. But I remembered that. Yeah, who's another?
Shout out my guy Coop, man. Hell yeah. What were we gonna ask?
I was trying to think of another Philadelphia athletes that had high-profile girlfriends. I guess
Ben Simmons,
Aaron Dolan,
Ben Simmons,
Alec Boehm, Aaron Dolan.
Yeah, and Ben Simmons and what's her name? Something Jenner. I'm blanking.
There's nobody really.
I mean, that's kind of it, isn't it? I think that's kind of it.
There's nobody really like currently in Philadelphia. Tyrese Maxey, didn't he took Bryce Young, the Panthers quarterback's girlfriend?
I thought you were about to say he took Bryce Young on a date. I was about to say no, not Maxey. Maybe Jared McCain did, not Maxey. People do remember though in Embiid's rookie year when he was in hot pursuit chasing after Rihanna. Rihanna. I was about to say Rhiannon, and then I was like, no, her name's Rihanna. But they didn't actually date. And I think that's kind of it. We've just had Nikki Bella, Kendall Jenner. Was it Kendall or Kendall Jenner?
Yeah, it was Kendall Jenner.
And Aaron Dolan. So I mean that's the big three right there. That's the big three right there. You feel me? Nikki Bella, the most you know what? I don't know who's more attractive, Nikki Bella or Aaron Dolan. I think I'm gonna lead slightly towards Aaron Dolan on that one, actually. Kendall Jenner, I don't find her attractive at all.
I don't find her. That's not my style of girl. Definitely not a bad looking. She's not bad looking though, but she's not somebody I find attractive.
But you can't touch.
Oh wait! Also, I forgot before we get out of here. Before we get out of here, I'm in a new setup because I actually.
Wait! I'll let you get to that in a second. I just want to say real quick. Nikki Bella actually did wear a Kelly green and gray outfit in her latest match, so she was sporting Eagles colors in her latest match. So she was hinting at it even in that match. But what were you about to say?
Will he be back on the Phillies?
Hopefully. That's our closing statement.
That's where we'll leave episode 126 of the Paisan Sports podcast next week. When we're back, we'll be hopefully extremely upset and eager. I messed that up. We'll be extremely upset and hesitant to record the podcast, or we'll be extremely eager and excited to record the podcast, depending the results of the Eagles 49ers game, which is actually, do you like the time slot?
I do like the time slot, actually. Yes.
It's America's game of the week on Fox. So it's obviously, you could argue outside of like Sunday night football.
We get Kevin and Tom Brady again. I feel like they've called so many Eagles games in the past couple seasons, so it is good to see them calling the game.
Tom Brady's such like an outlier legend that it's like we can't even like tie it back to we're the dude that we played against in 2 Super Bowls is calling a playoff game for the Eagles. We don't even like tie it back to that because he's such like an outlier legend. You know what I mean? That is just crazy. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Outside of Sunday night football, you could argue that's the biggest time slot, and I'm just happy it's not like that Monday night Tampa Bay ugly game that we had a couple years back that without AJ Brown. I'm happy it's not in.
I mean, listen, we're going into this playoff game. Everyone's healthy. I mean, not everyone, but I mean, we're for the most part almost at full health.
And we didn't have any like surprise issues besides like.
And we're at home, which is huge. So, I mean, look, I think it's more so that I'm nervous, that I'm not fully confident. But because when I do look at the big scope of things, I do like our chances. I think I'm just extremely nervous. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I'm just pretty anxious for the game, especially when you have to watch like other teams knowing the result if they move on or not, especially teams that match up with the Eagles. Like we'll know if the Rams advance in the playoffs before we know the result of the Eagles, and that's a team that we expect them to face down the line too as well. So that's going to be interesting. We'll see if Kelly Oubre comes back to the Sixers lineup and how that affects their lineup, and what the changes will be made if he comes back on Wednesday. He is questionable, like we said, and we'll be waiting on that Phillies news. I mean, as the weeks go by, 7 days at a time, 10 days at a time, we only have 4 more of those increments of 7 to 10 days before we blink and the Phillies will be at training camp. So spring training. So we'll see if they bring their catcher back or their pitcher. But thank you guys for tuning in to episode 126 of the Paisan Sports Podcast. Go Birds.
Go Birds.